And I thought that maybe we could just start with a very 30 seconds introduction of each one of you. I was told that these microphones work. We can also use mine. So maybe like just about me, very briefly. So as I say, my name is Ana. I work for Vertical Accelerator as the program manager, and I'm also one of the co-directors of Healthtech Helsinki, and I'm also participating as a founder spotter in the Next Billion initiative, raising more awareness for women in the entrepreneurship sector. That was it. And I'm from Spain, as you can hear by this accent.
Hi all, I'm Heli Kurjanen. I'm the CEO and founder of Lunette. We make menstrual cups. And we work in the countryside, in the middle of Finland. But we are a global company. We sell over 40 countries and to direct consumers over 50 last year. So yeah, from the countryside you can lead an international business.
Hi, my name is Leena Niemistö. I'm a physician, actually a specialist in physical and rehabilitation medicine. And I worked since 2003 in the medical center called Dextra here in Helsinki, and sold it to Pihlajalinna Group, and worked there as a deputy CEO since until last summer. And nowadays I'm a board professional, a business angel. I have invested in 20 startups, mostly on Femtech, and that's what I do today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hans. I'm a co-founder of a company called Clue. Clue is an app for women to track their cycle, and I'm one of actually originally 5 co-founders, and our CEO is a woman and also is my partner in life and also the mother of our kids. So I have a lot of stories to tell about this journey in which we founded a company and had 2 kids along the way, and what that meant for sort of her and for me, and how we managed, which is actually probably the interesting part of what we've been doing, and sort of getting that balance right.
Morning, my name's Maragna. I'm Managing Director of Healthtech, which is a UK network. Well, we're based in the UK just at the moment, which promotes and champions the unheard voices in Healthtech. Oh, does it work? Okay, I'll use this one. I think today the slide that Mina showed, the awful picture that we had in the press in the UK, is one example why we need to have a bit of a promotion of women in the UK. The NHS is an amazing supporter of women. 77% of people who work in the NHS are female, but when you get to the health tech bit, that real niche, we're really underrepresented, the females in the UK and across the world. So our network is to give people a safe, relevant environment. We run events which we hope are fun, to really educate people, inspire people, and get people involved in health tech. Yeah.
Okay, but thank you so much. Actually, my first question is about the word Femtech, because there is 2 mindsets about what it means. So I will throw the question, and please feel free to grab it. So what is Femtech? Hans?
We talked about it yesterday.
We did, yes. We had a bit of discussion last night. So for me, the interesting point of Femtech is to get women involved in tech. I think to have representation of women actually designing and getting involved in tech is really important. But there is also definitely an opportunity for tech for women, which I think is what we discussed last.
So for me, I mean, the definition of Femtech that you gave is for me women in tech. We don't need a term that is more complicated than women in tech for that. I think for us, Femtech, and that's a term Ida, my co-founder, actually coined 6 months ago, is describing an industry which is very unique in the way that it brings together specific women's needs with technology, and in the sense that women are different than men in some ways, biologically, and that meets technology. So it could be anything around the reproductive cycle and sort of technology around their menstrual cups and their sort of if they have a technology aspect to them. And I think that's how we understand Femtech. And once we started talking about it, because we saw there was missing a term for these kind of companies. They were not female health companies, because female health is larger and it incorporates also something like oncology companies that care about breast cancer, which is not really what we define as Femtech, and a term that we saw was needed. And we brought the term out and started talking about it in that context, and it started popping up everywhere within a couple of weeks. There was CB Insights, which is a sort of analyst company that did a nice picture of all the Femtech companies. And so we really saw there was something missing. And you know what? It was also something missing to describe ourselves to investors, right? Because when we started fundraising 4 years ago, 5 years ago, like we had a hard time really explaining what we're doing. And investors need to, because they see so many pitch decks and so many different companies over a very short amount of time, you need to make it very, very simple for them to be able to follow you. And now with that term, it becomes way more simple to explain, to sort of categorize it and be quicker at explaining what you're doing. And I think that's what helps us. So this is how we see Femtech, which doesn't diminish the fact that we need more women in tech. And that's the second thing we can talk about. Yeah.
What are Leena's and Heli's opinion on both, about the term Femtech, and also as Hans was mentioning about the investment side? So who wants to go first?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, the term Femtech is very new to me. I haven't thought about that. I think women in tech, that is very interesting, and that is a very essential issue, because we, as we heard earlier, so we absolutely should have more women in tech. And it starts from the education and so on. But I think Femtech is also so that women are the main customer group in everywhere, in healthcare, in health products. So because women are the heavy users, of course it's natural to create products and services for women, and whether it's not officially Femtech, when you make the service design, you think about women all the time. That's how I think.
How about you, Heli?
I don't really have anything to add to these really good quotes, because I think that there is definitely a need for women in tech, women in companies, women in business world. So it's a good term. Yeah.
Perfect. So, and then I had a question. What do you think that is going to come in next? If we talk, for example, let's talk about Femtech as Hans understands the term. So, in terms of women health products, what do you think is next? Let's go crazy here. What could that be?
Yeah, I think that obviously we have two people over here at the panel talking about periods and reproductive health and menstrual cycle, and I think that's definitely increasing business. And globally, not just in Finland, but also globally, women are there are more and more topics that used to be taboos that are now talked openly, and I think that creates a lot of possibilities for businesses and for new apps and for new interesting innovations.
Possibly something around the menopause. I think we were talking last night, and I was talking with Dr. Indra Joshi, who's our clinical director of One Healthtech in the audience, there isn't much around the menopause at the moment. One of our members has hacked a diabetic patch to start tracking, which will help. And there are things that are particular to women, like a speculum. We all have internal examinations. We all know how horrible those are. Perhaps, yes, there's something that could be done around that that hasn't been thought about yet. But there are definitely female things that we all, menopause is one of the things that we're all going to go through. So perhaps that's something that could be looked at in the future.
I don't think, I mean, I agree with the menopause part that is not covered. I think in sort of more sort of abstract, we're living in a world of data, and we've seen many trends come and go that sort of are buzzwords, like, I don't know if, I don't want to say no, maybe they're coming again, but maybe something like 3D printing and big data were buzzwords that came and sort of went again. I think one buzzword is not going to go away so soon again, which is sort of the notion of AI and machine learning, and making sense of data and large data sets, particularly in female health, is going to be super interesting in the next years. And the reason it's super interesting is the data is becoming available through sensors and sort of and tools, and making sense of that data is going to be like mind-bogglingly interesting, because we're going to find things that we don't know yet, and there is and just the female body has been under-researched, because they are in the studies, there are in the medical studies, the female body and its particularities are annoying to the researchers, and now I think that is changing, and they become very interesting to researchers around the world. So I think we're going to see a lot of things coming up there where we can correlate different things that we didn't know before that they were correlated, and make sense of them and change life and change health. And I think that's going to be very interesting.
Thank you very much. Now I have a question for Leena, actually.
I think this more generally. So I think of the demography. So we have the aging Europe coming in the future. There's women are living longer, and there are a lot of female widows. So I think all the services, products that promote healthy aging and promote living independent life at home via the help of IoT, e-health, but also cancer rehabilitation, because as we live longer, more and more people get cancer, but survive from cancer, and then there's a lot of people suffering from the side effects of the treatment or the disease itself. So more general way.
Yes, thank you very much. And then I have a question about investment, actually. So I'm looking here to our angel investor and our entrepreneurs. So and then I will go a bit more at Femtech as women entrepreneurship question. So Leena, what do you see that is coming from in the health sector? Like, what are kind of innovations and what kind of funding rounds you see that women are going at the moment more, or like in your experience? How do you see the scene of the funding into health and women in general?
Well, that's not an easy question, because I don't have the answer, but if I think that rationally, I think there has to be a rise there. I think one big thing is that there should be more female business angel. There should be more women in venture funds that understands the value of Femtech and women entrepreneurs and so on. So.
And I think there will be, because my impression is that for the funds, so far it's a thing that they've been running well on being all male partners. I think we're going to see in the next 3 years a very, very quick swap to incredible pressure if they don't have female partners. And I think that's going to happen now very, very quickly, and I can see signs of that. And that actually the VCs cannot stand up anymore and say we're an all-male partner group. That's going to be so embarrassing. I mean, Sequoia Capital, they just announced their first female partner. I don't know how many partners they have, 15, 20. It's ridiculous, right? And that cannot be a thing anymore in the future. That you can actually survive doing that. It's embarrassing, right? Exactly. And I think I know we have 2 funds that have all male partners, and we have that conversation with them. And I think it's also sort of people like us that are entrepreneurs in the portfolio that can have a voice and say, hey, you got to do something about this because it's, and I know they really care and think about that. So I think it's going to change very quickly now.
And actually, that will enchain with my next question for my entrepreneurs here. So it's like, as you said, like there is a lot of men. So how do they feel when you come with period trackings and period cups and you show them, as this is, you know, and you explain them how it works, for example, for the period cup?
So I actually don't have any interactions with investors because we haven't had any invested money in the company. So so I started the company 12 years ago, and that's the reason why it has been taking such a long time, because we have been like building the company from the beginning with our own money. But in general, I have not in recent years. I think Hans is right. Like things have been changing really fast, and they will continue to change really fast. But in the beginning, when I started the company, I had this kind of credibility problem to be a young woman with this kind of product that I truly believe still that it's going to change the world. It's going to be a big thing. And I had a lot of these kind of noddings. Yeah, talk about that. Yeah, it's kind of like I probably wouldn't have been able to get investors in board when we started. Even like I don't think that the world was ready.
No, I agree with you. It's, I mean, we had our fundraising. We're now fundraising since 5 years, so we met hundreds of investors, and it was tough in the beginning, and I think I played a big role in it because I gave Ida some credibility with male investors, and I could look them in the eyes in a sort of more man-to-man way and say, okay, we both don't understand, but I can explain you why this is a thing because I'm closer to it, and I think that helped a lot in some conversations that she was not alone there. For one, two, fundraising is a social game, and understanding the rules around fundraising and how much it matters to get a little bit of momentum, that how VCs function, how they talk, how they gossip, how you instill the message there, is really important, and it's something that is sort of seems to be more of a male kind of thing, and it's changing fortunately, but it also helps to have a man on your side doing that. And so I think I have been that sparring partner for Ida. I think it's becoming easier, and the conversations now around periods are becoming less awkward. They were certainly different 5 years ago, but also that's part of the success that we had. If you have a growth curve that's very steep, it almost doesn't matter what's behind the growth curve. There's a growth curve that's really steep, and I think we were lucky to have such a growth curve and maybe pave the way for others that then they listen more carefully now when they hear something around women's health, because there's been sort of some success, we're not profitable, but some success proven, and that makes it then easier to have those conversations. But I can probably talk for hours here about anecdotes that I as a man sitting there next to experience that I felt partly inappropriate, but also to say we have a lot of great investors who are male investors who believed in this early on, and we've been able to convince some of them, and I think it's a differentiated field of investors. And in the end, for investors, what counts is that you find your tribe and that you find people who you can connect with and who like you and who like your vision and who are possibly able to make your vision even bigger because they have the right mindset. And finding, like, going for the human side of investors is so important. And I think that's sort of the key learning, that you just got to connect on a human level, and then these things, and you're basically searching for your soulmate on the board side, and that search is never easy, no matter what product you have. So I think it's, yeah.
Thank you very much. And then, yes.
Yeah, and there's certainly a growing number of VCs that wish to invest in women in tech. And then if we think about the public funding, I think there's a great pressure to invest in women founders. So
It's coming there. And actually, so we spoke about that many times. You know, there's a bit of awkward, but then once they know, they open up. And that was to my next question. Actually, is for Angela. But then please feel free to come in. So Angela, in your case, how do you think that, because you work for a public organization, and for example, if we talk about periods, we all, like almost all of us here, have periods. But there is nowhere that a public at the moment a public institution will give something from us as normal package, for when you have your first period. So, for example, how do you think that we could involve more the public sector? Once again, just go crazy here. Just imagine, or if you have any example of things that you have been able to do with the NHS.
So our network is a great platform for people to come and talk. So we have lots of startups come, and it's a great opportunity for them to talk to our network. And our network is 44% of our network is NHS, and we've got 11,000 members. So within a year, we've got 11,000 members. So there's a real appetite for the network in the UK. And what we can offer is that kind of warm introduction to between the NHS and the startup. We can't guarantee anything, and I met quite a few people yesterday who were really interested in how do you get into the NHS, because it's a bit of a closed shop. It's quite difficult. It's not a homogenous beast that once you're in everywhere. There are lots of pockets, and it's quite a difficult organisation to navigate. However, we can give people that kind of warm introduction, and because we have connections, it can help. And we have one of our members came to one of our events and talked about her product, which was it's called Orca. It's an app to look at how medical apps work, and it kind of rates them. And she spoke at one of our events, and some of the NHS were there, and they said this is exactly what we need to do, and they've partnered, and it's gone much bigger than it's taken off. So it can work. We can't guarantee anything, but it can work. And I think it's just about opening those conversations and giving people the opportunity to just talk about their products.
So thank you very much. And actually, I will go to my last question that I would like all of us to, we forget that we're in a panel, we just keep on having the discussion, which is for both, for encouraging more women to technology, but also, as I say, what could we do to see more women, both as entrepreneurs, but also to see more Femtech products, and how can we involve the society? As I say, I would love, for example, that every girl gets, a welcome to womanhood. When you get your first period or something. So what can we do? What kind of things could be there? Heli, for example.
Yeah, I think that it starts from the changing the attitudes. There has been a good change that there isn't any more these huge taboos in that sense that they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I think it starts from that women understand that they are a little bit different most of the time than men. There isn't anything wrong with that. The last in your keynote, there was a really good the last section, women work based on their values, and I think that's definitely an important thing to understand, that women also of course there are men that think the same way, but have maybe a little bit different values, and that's okay. You can run business, you can have family, and you can kind of want to go forward in your career, but still have the basic values. You don't need to push people down. So I think that's definitely something that we need to change in the attitudes.
Yeah, for me, there's something about role models. We're looking at whether we go into schools and start giving talks to schools to really get that kind of inspiration and that spark planted at a younger age. But it's about, for me, giving people that platform to shine, because I think lots of people are slightly reluctant to put themselves forward. So giving people opportunities to speak at things, to see other people speaking at things, I think is a really good thing. And just being inspired by having those role models, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'll continue after you.
I think I like your list of that you had in the presentation, find a mentor, coaching. I think one of the things, hasn't been mentioned yet, is sort of uncovering the truth of the story and talking about that. I mean, it is hard to raise children and have a startup, but it's also doable. And I think sort of being able to hold the toughness of it without either saying it's too tough or it doesn't exist, but actually sort of getting the reality of it is helping. And I think that's what we're trying to do within the company, and we're 50 people at Clue, is giving them a space where we have a coach that comes in 1 day a week and has open office hours, and people can go there and talk to her. She's a psychologist, to sort of have personal care, but actually being like uncovering these shadow sides that have been either taboo or and children and work are still a taboo, and actually like trying to talk about. So I think there's a lot about sort of being honest about the journey. And hoping that honesty leads to more people taking the journey, because in the end it's also doable and a lot of fun, doing the entrepreneurial path and yeah.
Well, in general, I have to say that I'm not worried at all about girls or women. I think girls and women are really empowered at the moment, and you know, women are going to the universities and so on. Actually, I'm much more worried about men's health.
It's interesting
and young boys and so on.
Yeah.
So.
It's actually a really good point. We're now more women in Clue than men, and I think I'm gonna be a feminist till there's equality, and when there is equality, I'm not gonna be a feminist anymore. And I think the whole point of feminism is to create equality, but not female dominance. And I think that's really a good point, and we need to reach that sort of eye level. And you're right.
Yeah, it started to go out the opposite
and
side.
we need to watch out for that. I agree.
Yeah, so actually, you know, last night I was speaking with Hans and Angela that maybe we should have a men's tech, you know, like next time, you know. But that was all from my side, but actually I think that we can have 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So I know we are in Finland. I know it's a bit of a stressful moment now where I'm asking someone to raise up the hand, but just let's go. We have the opportunity to speak here to our greatest speaker, so please take the opportunity. So who wants to put a question? I know it's morning, but...
At least be polite in one question.
Mina, yes.
Well, thank you, first of all, for the great discussion on the panel, and especially in the last part to raise up this kind of, maybe we could have a unisex tech neck, whatever it is next year. So one thing I'd like to ask the panelists also, that now we know that one of the big challenges is, like Hans, you told that to be able to run the business and combine the family life, and you have the children, and then later on you have your aging parents, and that is a big challenge. So could we bridge this something? Could we establish and invent certain tools and services and platforms to help this daily life? And like Marie Curie, she tried to do that already, or ages ago. But like today, we have a very hectic life, and you have to take care of your close by people. And there are already a couple of examples that instead of inventing the apps, maybe we can invent those platforms to help daily life. Very practical things. Where you can get shopping, or how can you be contacted to your elderly parents, who will take the dog out or whatever. So I think there is certain kind of still room to get new things in the social life as well. Not only measuring your health. Or
can I say one thing to that? Because we have 2 kids, Ida and I, 7 and 2. And I think one thing you can't outsource, and I agree with you, you should outsource all the stuff that you can outsource, like shopping, cleaning, stuff like that. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That would kill us if we did all that ourselves. One thing you can't outsource is the care for your kids. Yeah. Like, it's something you, like, yes, you can have a nanny sometimes, but really, like, is that you, and the trick for us is are my investors still in the room? We don't work as much. We actually just don't work as much. And we are very disciplined in the time where we work, but we're not gonna sit there till 9 p.m. in our company. We go home between 4 and 5, and we take care of the kids, and maybe we sit there in the evening again. But having that discipline and the belief that you can be successful even if you don't work 60, 70 hours a week, and that trust and that confidence is so important. And I think we had that because we had to have that, but also because we believe we wanted to be parents. And I think that's like absolute key to the success is to balance this out and be like really standing up for having a family life and say no to things. And you know what? It's so fine not to miss out on all kinds of side events and not go to the dinners, because that's not where it's decided. It's decided on whether you show up consistently at work for years and not whether you do this and this and that as well. And I think that sort of it's a marathon and not a sprint. And the marathon part of it is sort of taking care of the kids.
That deserves applause.
So we have it running late, but if that's okay with my next panelist, 5 minutes. Hanna, is that okay? Yes. So then there's Tiina who has a question.
So Juhans made 2 great points that actually resonated in me quite deeply. So one was kind of the hundreds of investor meetings, and you don't get those meetings without networks and contacts. And that's something that, for example, with my first company, I faced as a very hard challenge that, you know, at the same time you would need to have all those networks and contacts and then run everything else. And then the second point, holding the hardness. I kind of loved the expression. So maybe, because I think that's the path that kind of every female entrepreneur needs to go through, those 2 things that are extremely hard. So any advice, kind of anything more that you could give to the potential entrepreneurs in the audience, I think that would be really kind of valuable. And anything else what others might have also, I think Leena has held her share of the hardness and stuff like that, as well as Heli. So, you know, I'd like to hear about that, because we don't talk about that enough.
It's true.
I mean, to sort of the holding part, I think, is a psychological sort of, has a lot to do with being strong in sort of your mind and taking care of your emotional ups and downs. And one way we do, Ida and I do that, we have a couple therapists that we go see frequently. And that person, who's, by the way, the same person as the coach that I mentioned in the company, it's one and the same person, she is more than just a couple therapist. I mean, she's basically the reflective sort of point where we can talk about what's going on. She's also like a co-founder therapist, if you want, because like co-founders often have the same relationship as couples. In our case, it happens to be the same thing. So like building that mental strength and reflecting upon it, and also like really sort of being mindful about the bad parts of the journey is really important. And I think we learned a lot from that. I don't know, I can't talk for Ida as much. I can say it for myself, like that's been the major driver for me over the last 2 years. And the second part of networking, yes, networking is super important. But again, I think it's not so much networking for the sake of networking. It's networking for the sake of finding the like-minded. And it can be a needle in a haystack. So you need to turn out a lot of things to find it. And I think that's part of just what you got to do, is just sort of find people who have sort of start glowing in their eyes when they hear what you say, and you need to be mindful enough to recognize that and then continue that on that connection. What else can I say? I think it is important to be 2 people in a company at least as founders, possibly more. Alone is a tough journey, I would say. I think neither Ida nor I could have, nor any of our co-founders, we could have pulled it off alone. And I think it was really a group effort, and being sort of aware of that is important, right?
Heli, anything to add to Hans?
Yeah, I have been founding this company alone. Wow. But it has been a long ride and tough ride. So yeah, I definitely agree. And the networking is like, nowadays it's so easy. We are in the countryside, and that's part of the reasons why I have the little bit sanity left, because I don't have the possibilities to come to the big cities for networking events constantly, and kind of I have I need to focus on working quite a lot. But nowadays it's so easy to do networking online, and kind of like I think it's really important to try to find, when you are networking, try to find the right people, right events. Like, don't go to all of them, because that will drive you crazy. Like, it will be just too hard. Like Hans said, it's important to find the right people that understand you. like in general in the business world.
Leena, Angela, you would like to add something to that?
Well, I think that was very good thing that you should get a co-founder, so to not be alone. And the other thing about the business angel, I think, because the one crucial thing is always fundraising, and I think the business angels should be the way to get the networks.
That's a really good point. We had a lot of
Yeah.
business angels very early, and I think without them, you get to the next level. Startups is like Super Mario. You get from one level to the next, and you need to know what level you're in and how to get to the next one. And business angels certainly are very relevant for a couple of the first levels. Yeah.
Okay, but I would love to continue, and I think that the audience as well, but I have my next panelists and speakers on the room, but there is two things I would like to do before we leave. One is a group picture. And the second one, actually, actually, Minna spoke about mentors, that it's important to get a good mentor. And one of my mentors is here today. Okay. And so thank you, Lisa. So she was my awesome mentor for 3 years, and she has given me a lot. So thank you very much for everything. That's it, emotional. So thank you, everybody. And so let's have that picture. And then it's time for Hannah and Nina and Krista to come on the stage and talk to us about wearables in health. Thank you.